So plans, plans, objectives, there's often a sense of hierarchy to them in which one will sit inside some bigger plan, and that bigger plan sits inside a bigger plan still, and so forth. It's called nesting. And it might be pictured a little bit like this, that you might have specific plans of different departments, say, and they fall within the bigger plan of the organization. It's a little bit like a war that is made up of a series of individual battles. And each of those battles is made up by a bunch of stands and retreats. And each of those particular actions is then going to be a series of military strikes, let's say. Maybe that metaphor doesn't work so well. Let's try a different one. You know, in your life, you may hold an overarching sort of vision, a mission at a personalized level of what it is you want your life to all be about. I'd like to suggest that actually there's a few different levels to how that sort of internalized vision can look like. You know, it starts off with God's general calling, his grand plan for everything. And the really big picture has 4 parts to it. You know, God created an amazing planet, but the fall came. We sinned. And that brought all kinds of trouble. That brought sin that damaged relationships between us and God, between us and creation, between us and other people, and even between us and ourselves. But then along comes Jesus, who provides the solution, the redemption of how things can be restored, and then we move into a process of restoration which will be complete in the end. But we're not there yet. And in the meantime, there's still a lot of things that need fixing. All around the world, there is trouble. The environment is in difficulty. Nations, wars, politics, societies, communities, families, even individual level, there's all kinds of trouble that is there and has not yet been fixed. But this is a big job. It's more than we can handle as individuals, for sure. And so instead, God has given us a focus. In fact, throughout history, you can read through the Bible, God has a particular concern for poor people, for widows, for orphans, for foreigners, for people who have no other support. And, you know, God has got this consistent care for those people, and he asks us to take up that care. So that's in the very broadest, most general terms. There's also the very specific, you know, that God sometimes will call us personally and might give us a specific sense of calling to a particular vocation. I would suggest that if you want to find out what is your personal calling, I think it comes in the intersection of 4 different circles. The first of those is your personality. God has made you in a particular way. You have certain some strengths, some weaknesses, some things that you enjoy, some things you don't enjoy. You know, your personality plays into this. Also, how do you address problems? You know, some people see that the problems of the world are about education. It's about what people know or don't know. For other people, it's about the power that others have or don't have. For some people, they think that it's about stuff, about resources that they do or don't have. For some people, it's just about, oh, if only they knew. And it's about bringing truth into a situation, etc. So different people will address problems in quite different ways. How do you see problems around the world being solved? Of course, there's also going to be specific needs that are around you in the present. You know, you live in a particular context, in a situation, and that may generate a sense of what is your calling. And Lastly, there is the desires of your heart. What is it that really brings you joy? Not just, the stuff that you find fun, but what is the thing or the things that really fulfill you, that fill your tank up? Because probably somewhere in amongst these 4 different circles, where these 4 overlap, somewhere here, this is going to be what God has called you for. And, maybe you can look back over time. Maybe you can look back over the course of your life, and you might see this red thread running through all sorts of different situations and times and projects that you've worked on, and things where you've really felt fulfilled, and other times where you thought, that really was not for me. We can also see how, so we've looked at the very biggest vision of how God wants to bring restoration to everybody on the planet. We've seen the vocational calling of individuals like you and me, but there's also organizations can have particular visions. And we know that UMN has got a vision to bring fullness of life for all in a transformed Nepali society. And this vision can also be reworded or broken down into a particular mission statement, which is what UMN has done, where it says that they are inspired by the love and teachings of Jesus Christ. In partnership with the Christian community and others in Nepal and worldwide, we will serve the people of Nepal, particularly those who live in poverty, to pursue peace and justice for all, to address the root causes of poverty, and to make Christ known by word and life. So there you've got an organizational vision. And it may well be that inside an organization, you can then have different teams, different departments. So there may be a team vision that falls underneath that larger, broader UMN vision. You can then find your team's vision. There will be other departments, other teams. And between all of the teams, hopefully, it makes up this overall vision of the organization. And then you can see where your team or your department plays its part in fulfilling the broader vision of the organization. Of course, no one person, even no one department, is going to fulfill the whole of UMN's vision. But together, we can work cooperatively as a big team in order to fulfill the overall vision. Now, I want you to think back to the roles of leadership. Do you remember we had F, E, and D? Future, engage, and deliver. Yes. And these 3, this is, one of the ways that you can break down the role of leadership. But what is it that you are planning to deliver? Well, maybe in 5 years' time, you can think about a time in the future where you say, yes, we've done a really good job. Okay, what does that look like? What is it that you hope to have achieved in 5 years' time? What is it that you will have done? Maybe it's a new situation that your team has helped to bring about or to inspire. What does it actually look like? Maybe you've helped a local partner to become more self-sustaining. Maybe you've helped Ram and Shanta and Kanchi to really understand about hygiene and sanitation, and they're now teaching it in their local schools. Maybe you've improved the system in the finance department so that we can comply with donor requirements in a better way. Maybe you've given some advice to all of the clusters about keeping them up to date with the latest thinking, and maybe you've challenged them to be the very best that they can in their technical field. Who knows? What is it that is your vision of your team? Let's get really practical. What is the vision of your team? And by your team, I mean the people that you line manage, the people that you give direction to, the people that you have to motivate by engaging them in a compelling picture of the future. What is the vision that you set before your team? You want them to work together as a coordinated team, pulling together all in the same direction. Great. But what is that direction? One of the things that is really important is that it somehow is articulated in a way that they can grasp. You know, if we're taking the analogy of the orchestra, is there a sheet of music that you can give to all of the orchestral members so that they are all playing from the same song sheet? You know, that's why it's important to articulate our vision so that everybody can work together. In order to build a vision for a team, I think you need to sort of answer some of these questions. What kind of decision is it that you are wanting to engage in? Do you remember about decision making that we've already looked at? We could also be thinking, who needs to be involved in making this decision? You know, if you're trying to build a vision for your team, does it involve all of your team or some members of your team, or maybe just the leader at the top of the team? What kind of decision is this that you're trying to take? Do you need them and have their input in order to operationalize it? You're going to want to come up with more than one idea of how you will solve the problem that you are addressing. So how are you going to generate multiple ideas? Sitting at your desk, having a brainstorm with other team members? Don't know, look back and, think, some of the stuff that we've talked about in previous sessions. How will you generate a range of ideas before then going ahead and selecting the best one? And then once you have settled on a strategy of what you're going to take forward, how are you going to present that to all the rest of your team? Some of your team are going to be wondering about about how decisions are made. That you need to somehow, as the leader, you need to find this balance point between the decisions that you make and the decisions that they make. Because at the one end of the spectrum, there is you making the decisions, and it can be quite dramatic decisions at times. And if it's only you who is doing it, eventually you will get burnt out. You'll get too tired, and you may quit, or you will want to quit. If you are trying to make every decision for the department, that's going to be exhausting. I would suggest that you don't go down that route. But equally, if you allow them, the team, to make every decision, it turns into like what we have here is a kindergarten. It can turn into chaos because different people are pulling in different ways, and actually you can then have all kinds of tensions in your team because there's no single person who is taking charge. So there needs to be a balance point between you, the leader, giving direction, and the team also using their initiative. You have to find that balance point of when do you step in and take control, and when do you delegate some control to the team to do it in a more democratic way. We spoke a little bit about personal vision. Sometimes we need to think about our own personal vision. Is there something that maybe God has called us to, or that we feel that's what we are called to do? We need to understand our own personal sense of calling and our own personal sense of vision before we can kind of integrate that into what does the team need. Because if the team needs somebody who is like this, but you know that your personal vision actually is in a different direction, then you might need to think, am I really in the right place? Am I going to be able to work on my own personal vision when my work here in the office is in quite a different direction? We might want to think of it in a different way and consider, when we're recruiting somebody to join our team, maybe we need to find out about their personal vision before we get them to try and join in with our team vision. So there needs to be that marrying up of personal vision fitting in with the team vision, and then all the different teams' visions, they all contribute to the broader UMN vision, and hopefully UMN's vision contributes to the bigger picture of God's vision for the restoration of all that has been lost.